Welcome to Muirfield. It has been entirely too long. Actually, it's been like 2 weeks. Welcome to the first show of 2023. Welcome to the prestigious Fuelies Award episode combined with the Black Monday episode. We got a lot to get into, mostly, but not only. But the reason we weren't here last week, so we'll get into that here in a little bit. But yeah, we got some news to get into, a lot of coaching stuff to get into, and our superlative Fuelies. The Fuelies this year are presented by the FF Face-Off, so thank you to them for sponsoring the trophies that we don't have.
Look at you, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Killing it first of the year. Doing it right.
No, proud of those guys. Aaron doing a good job with that trophy sponsorship that he doesn't know he's sponsoring.
Great job, buddy. Good job.
Been real, but yeah, presented by the FF Face-Off. Those other beautiful voices you hear: Dan Thury, Ryan Miner, gentlemen.
What's up, guys?
You can follow them at Beerfield Thury, at Ryan Miner _FFB. You can follow me at Beerfield Hop with 2 P's, and the show at Beerfield Podcast. Did I miss anything?
I struggle with that some days. I always say, want to say Beautiful Fantasy, and I keep backspacing and then put podcast.
I'll be completely honest with you. Production meeting, haven't done that in a while.
Probably go back to
We're gonna change it back so it's more findable, even if we don't always talk fantasy. I'd rather be searchable and discoverable for that than the other way around where nobody has a freaking clue.
You're just in a black hole, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're like 25th on the list of sports podcasts or something like that, just because of the amount of content that we pump out. But still, just a listener's thing. We tried it for a couple years, and it just is better off for us if we go back, since it's mostly what we talk about. And if we do an episode without it, well, it's still some BS too.
We gotta have fun every once in a while.
Oh, we're going to. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. So let's go ahead and get right into it.
What's fueling Beerfield?
And now we'll go ahead and start. I have not a fun beer, but a fun name on the beer. Kind of a fun beer if you like beer. This is Blind Pig's I Hate Illinois Nazis. It is a Czech-style dark lager from Blind Pig Brewing Company out of Champaign, Illinois. So, yeah. Review about halfway through the show. So Czech-style dark lager. It's a Czech lager, but dark.
Interesting. Well, it's a dark label on it.
Yeah, it's a cool label.
Oh, yeah. Blues Brothers.
Yeah. Blues Brothers, and it's called I Hate Illinois Nazis. Anyway, whoever wants to go next.
It's Fuelies time, which means you got to bust out some dark shit, some barrel day shit, and some shit that's from last year. So this is one of the Bourbon County Stout variants. This is from last year. This is the one that's finished in brand cherry woods in brand cherry wood barrels. Wow, can't talk. So yeah, it's a barrel aged stout finished in cherry wood barrels.
Sweet.
Sounds good. I have Athletic Brewing Company Run Wild IPA. It is a non-alcoholic brew, so I'm kind of curious to see how it actually tastes.
Spoiler alert, it tastes like beer.
Dry January?
Really? I'm sorry?
Dry January?
No, I bought it. I was like, I want to try this. And then I was like, oh, let's try it on the show.
I really think it's a good idea to feature some non-alcoholic beers, just because we know from having guests on and being, people and stuff, that not everybody drinks. So
it's almost like I just did a massive NA craft brewery launch in Missouri this month.
Oh, that too. Who'd you launch?
Big Drop.
Oh yeah,
I've had him on the
show.
Yep,
I remember.
Their shit is very good.
I can't find some of the notes I made. We'll figure that one out here in a minute. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and get into the news, and I'll look for my shit later. That deserves a drop, right? I think that deserves a drop. We're doing drops today.
Most
Absolutely.
Days.
News.
Cool. And to find the notes I was looking for, so I can be here now again. All right. Starting off, I said we'd address why we weren't here last week, so we'll go ahead and address why we weren't here last week. So, I admittedly did not see, and we'll give you updates too, although the world's been paying attention. I admittedly was not watching the game when the Damar Hamlin stuff happened. I knew about it immediately because everything started blowing up. I knew as soon as I saw, they were doing CPR on the field that it was not good, because like most people, that is something that I have never seen or heard of happening before. Dan was pretty jarred by it, as I think a lot of people were that watched it in real time, that watched that unfold. Anybody with, you can numb yourself from it a little bit if you don't see the clip, if you don't see the whole thing unfold, you're just kind of hearing about it. But watching that live had a lot of effects across the NFL, across the industry. And Dan's immediate reaction was, I don't want to record this week. It doesn't feel right until we know what's going on. It doesn't feel right to talk about it. There was anger after the NFL tried to restart the game, and I think there's at least 3 times a season, but none bigger than this one, when we're like, man, fuck the NFL. I don't even want to talk about their product. This being that, I kind of tossed it out is a general rule. This is something that is probably a good thing to follow, but that I've learned in the last couple of years, was really bad at it before, which is, big or small, don't make decisions on emotion. Give it 24 hours. So it was, obviously it was Monday night when that happened. And so we gave it till Wednesday and still didn't feel quite right about doing an episode. So we didn't do it. Brought it back this week. News obviously has been very, very positive. Multiple heroes, true heroes involved on that athletic training staff that executed the plans and what they were supposed to do flawlessly. Unprecedented situation with fantasy championships and with, playoffs and everything like that. And I don't know that, because we missed last week, we don't really need to get into heavy how to resolve leagues, because most of them are going to be resolved. But Damar Hamlin back in Buffalo, set to be discharged here soon, fully neurologically intact, and seems to be kind of a freak accident.
Yeah, he just got hit in the chest at the right, like in the right exact spot. And it was like hard because like my son and I were both watching that game because he's so huge into football like I am. And he goes, "Dad, what just happened?" I go, "I think he just passed out." Like I didn't want to like tell him, like, because when I saw him collapse like that, I'm like, "Oh my God, this guy just went into cardiac arrest," because I've seen that before.
Yeah, and it was the weirdest thing because he pops up like you normally would after making a tackle and like arm taps a guy and then just down.
Yeah, like goes to adjust his helmet, gets ready to take a step, and you see him freeze, and then arm just drop, and he drops, and the ref just like, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah, it's legitimately just watching it. It's just watching it live. Like you've seen that happen so much, right? Generally, it's a concussion, obviously, which is obviously a very, very dangerous thing too, especially the long term of it. But it's once they went to commercial break for the second time, that's when it really started to feel like it was like something beyond just a concussion, or beyond what we would normally see. So it's yeah.
And we've watched, I mean, you're almost numb to it at this point, and I hate to say it that way, but guys getting strapped down and rolled out, we almost expect at this point to hear, by the conclusion of the game, it's a concussion, they're discharged from the hospital, they're in protocol. Just because we see that so often with the new rules and the abundance of caution and everything. And, even when, I watched Johnny Knox get his career ended and get folded in half and break several vertebrae. I watched the Ryan Shazier spinal contusion and the Brown hit, which was one of the first instances of seeing somebody just knocked out playing cold on a football field. But occasionally it's bad, and this was definitely one where I think we all knew it was bad as soon as we saw how it was unfolding.
Yeah.
So props to the training staff. The medical staff,
The coaches.
the coaches.
Props to the coaches. I mean, once he
Yeah.
was on the field, they said 5 minutes to warm up, and the coaches got to yell at the refs and said, "Nope, we're taking our team off this field." So, props to them
Yeah,
more than anyone else, because that just shows right there. You're like, this is more than just a game. This is family.
Yeah.
Yep.
McDermott apparently quoted as saying, "I need to be with DeMar." When that happened, Zach Taylor immediately getting it. Bengals captains going into the Bills locker room. All the reactions associated with that. Shout out to everybody across the greater community for all of the donations to DeMar's charity. Watching
It's
that
over 8.6 million, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching,
His goal was like 2,500.
Yeah. Watching that blow up has been awesome to see everybody give, to see him embracing it and being able to embrace it, which is just a beautiful thing. Props to everybody involved except for maybe the NFL who tried to restart.
Yeah, well, the NFL tried to make it up for it by taking all the so everyone was getting a DeMar Hamlin jersey and taking all the money from that and donating it to the charity too.
Cool.
So that was their way of trying to make up for it. But yeah, that wasn't good. But the great thing was when he woke up, the very first thing he asked was, "Did we win?"
Yeah.
Right.
That whole thing was if you want to see grown men cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some real Jason Street vibes there. After he's paralyzed on the field in Friday Night Lights, the first thing he says when he wakes up to is, "Did we win?"
Yep. In which they did.
They did. So yeah, obviously unprecedented stuff for fantasy. That all takes a backseat. Everybody figured that out in their own way. We're not here to tell you if it was right or wrong, as long as it was agreeable. Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else on this one?
Nope.
Just glad he's doing good.
All right. Following that up, positive update before we get to another kind of negative update. Positive update, John Mechie. Probably going to be ready for off-season activities after his lymphoma diagnosis. So it appears he is in remission and will be able to rejoin the team this offseason. Hadn't seen or heard an update on him, and then as the draft unfolded, looking at the Texans offseason plans and what they were going to do, started to see a lot of Mechie in being a big part of that. So kind of led me to dig a little deeper and find out that he's good. He's visited several games since then. He's on his way back. So good news there.
Good.
Beautiful.
In slightly sadder news, but more hero news. Seems like you don't usually get two hero stories in 1 week.
No.
Peyton Hillis is in the ICU right now. I didn't look for an update before this, so this is all like 2-day-old information. Saved a couple of his kids from drowning. I think everybody involved with fantasy football remembers who Peyton Hillis is.
Yeah.
Saved a couple of his kids from drowning, and is apparently having some kidney issues and stuff after that. So
he was removed from his ventilator.
Good.
6 hours ago.
That's awesome.
That's positive. Yeah, that's very good.
So hopefully a full recovery for him for his selfless acts, which as a dad I totally understand.
Oh yeah. When you go into parent mode, man, you don't care about anything else but your kids. You're trying to do whatever you can to get them to safety. You don't care about yourself.
Yep.
It's weird. It's hard to explain.
All right, on to some other things here. Probably some of the biggest news of the week. Simon Lizotte left Discraft. He is going to MVP. So sponsorship news there. Brian's looking at me like, what the hell?
I was like, who's Simon and what did Antonio Brown to Discraft?
Anthony Barella, the real AB, to Discraft, along with
the only AB I know,
along with Valerie Mandujano, Holland Handley, and a host of others. So sponsorship changes in the disc golf world, which really
big ones too.
They're big names changing brands, and really what that means is that we're going to get cooler signature discs, and usually when players jump, they get better deals and more money in a lot of instances. So as the sport continues to grow, this type of stuff continues to happen. Simon, the MVP, is definitely the biggest one. We love AB, but that's a 10-year face of that brand, along with Eagle McMahon jumping ship.
Yep.
So it's kind of the equivalent of when Le'Veon Bell left the Steelers. Minus the contract dispute.
Yes.
And the bad blood. It was very amicable. Including one more disc release. All right. Playoff stuff real quick. Jaguars and the Seahawks. They're both in as 7 seeds. So good.
Yay!
I'm happy to see Jacksonville back in the playoffs.
And I'm happy that Green Bay isn't there. Yay!
Yep,
I wish it was the Lions.
Packers were eliminated by the Lions.
That was a great game.
The NFL got bailed out for a bullshit scheduling fiasco by not having Seattle and the Green Bay Lions game at the same time.
Yep.
That was a crock of shit. That was, oh, God.
And props to Dan Campbell for just saying if we ain't going, they're not going either, and actually being honest about how badly he wanted to eliminate them.
I protect that man at all costs. I love Dan Campbell.
He's awesome.
He's fantastic.
That's my coach.
That is your coach.
It is your coach. Skylar Thompson's going to start for the Dolphins, so Tua is still not cleared, and Thompson continues to run over Teddy.
No, I don't think Teddy's cleared either. I think he's still injured also.
He's not cleared yet. Yeah, he's still hurt.
Yeah.
So, it's been a great story for the Dolphins. It's probably going to end in quarterback injuries.
Yeah, it would be one and done.
Yeah.
Just like the other AFC team that's the 6th seed.
Yeah, Ravens are also banged up at quarterback going up against the Bengals. Lamar not practicing. I think Huntley was practicing. So.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Anthony Brown again.
Yeah.
It's very, 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 very annoying.
Good defense,
but
not
scary.
a good recipe, especially not in that matchup against the Bills. Or Bengals, my bad.
Same difference. It's going to be the same bloodbath.
It's going to be Bills Bengals next week anyway, so just be prepared for it.
In Atlanta.
Is that how they're doing it? I was thinking it was going to be Detroit. Dang it.
No, it's in Atlanta. It got announced today.
Detroit was not eligible for that because that was the AFC Championship game they weren't eligible for, right? Detroit wasn't eligible for something because they're replacing their turf and they didn't want to cancel having their turf replaced.
Oh, that makes sense. Because I'm like, that's like a good midway point unless you're playing Cleveland.
They're having turf replaced.
Ooh. These spreads, man. My God.
They considered outdoor stadiums as well, particularly Soldier Field, but Soldier Field's got one of the smallest capacities in the NFL, so. Yeah, notable draft stuff as we wrap up the season. Bears are going to pick first overall thanks to a ballsy win by former coach Lovie Smith, who...
The greatest fuck you ever.
Oh my God, that was so awesome.
So beautiful.
You know, he left with a smirk on his face too. He's like,
you know.
If I'm going out with a W.
Him and Brandon Cooks are just like, fuck you guys. You don't deserve shit. Trade up for the first ball pick now. Trade up for it.
Yep, knocked him out of it, put the Bears into it. A lot of discussion. Well, I want to talk about this for a second. I got to address something. To everybody that's saying the Bears are going to draft Bryce Young and trade Justin Fields,
no.
Stop trying to get clicks. Just stop.
It's everywhere. It's so infuriating. It's so fucking obvious why they shouldn't. And yet people want to drop stories.
No, it was for
clips. There's nothing wrong with Justin Fields.
Yeah, exactly. What more do we need to talk about?
What is wrong with the Bears?
They need defense.
They need they need a lot of stuff.
They need everything. They literally need everything.
All right, so you need everything. What can you do with that first pick? Yeah, but what can you do with that first pick? Exactly. Trade it out of it. You don't need it.
And more value than Justin Fields, because it's always the unknown commodity. You got to call. But no, it's been, obviously, look, the one argument against it, I guess that's in favor of this trading of Fields and drafting a quarterback is to reset the rookie running back or the rookie quarterback contract, which makes a lot of sense, right? Like, I get that. They're going to put Bryce Young, Stroud, Levis or whatever, Levis, Richardson, Levis, Richardson. It doesn't matter who the fuck it is.
No,
it doesn't solve your problem. Now, having a bunch of cap space, having whatever draft picks you get in return for Justin Fields, great. What you're getting out of the first round pick is extra picks in 24, extra picks in 23. If Fields doesn't fire next year, the quarterback class next year
is one you want.
It's supposed to be Caleb Williams is supposed to be quote unquote that next like the Trevor Lawrence prospect
generational talent.
That's been said like this since he joined Oklahoma
and
now USC.
Yeah. And for Fields, it's not like he didn't progress at all. He showed the dynamic playmaking ability. Yes, he has some ways to go as a passer, but he also had no supporting cast whatsoever to help with that. He accounted for 25. I think Orlovsky tweeted this. 25 total touchdowns with one of the worst supporting casts in the league because he's a dynamic playmaker. And the trade-offs with Bryce Young there, not quite as dynamic on the legs, huh? Might be a little bit better passer. Might process quicker. I haven't watched the film.
And he's smaller.
And he's
smaller.
He's
smaller.
So
I mean, his size doesn't make me nervous, but still, like, why would you do
behind an offensive line that gives off that many hits? I mean, it's not Minnesota bad, but that's because Cousins
the Bears
too long, but
could take the edge rusher from Alabama, who is consensus or considered a number 1 overall pick by a lot of people, and game wrecker, and something they absolutely need is pass rush.
Yep,
they could move back for picks and choose to address the wide receiver, pass rush, offensive line, running back if they don't re-sign Montgomery. And do that type of thing. Now, Bears also have a shitload of cap space, so I mean they can address. I think as I was reading
DeAndre Hopkins,
top free agents. Yeah, I mean DeAndre Hopkins, you'd have to trade package for him. I don't think he's a free agent.
He's not a free agent.
Yeah,
he's not free agent. He has 2 years left.
Yeah. You'd have to buy him, but if you're just looking to get in free agency, I mean, there's some good young talent along the D-line, off-ball linebacker positions that you can do to help solidify that. So, I've been camp trade back for a while. I think I'm becoming more comfortable with if you make the pick to get a pass rusher, then that's totally okay. But there's not a chance in hell that, especially after Ryan pulls the press conference, not a chance in hell they're trading Fields to draft a quarterback. It doesn't move the franchise any if you trade Fields to draft a quarterback.
Nope.
No, you hit the reset button again.
Yeah, exactly. You're resetting the rookie contract, but, what are you really doing to get? I guess you get picks for Fields, but, the 101's going to be more full 5 years of team control is going to be more valuable than Fields with 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. So Houston has picks 2 and 12 after falling down, so they've got 2 top 13 picks, thanks to having Cleveland's first rounder. So they're also in a good position to do some franchise altering stuff if they don't screw it up.
I've been seeing quarterback and wide receiver in those first 2 picks.
They also need pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Houston? Yeah.
Yeah, they got Stingley last year, but they still need everything. So quarterback will be a definite it too. It doesn't matter if somebody does jump up to take Young. I think that they'll pivot then and look at Stroud or Levis or whoever you think the 2 is in this class. I don't know yet. I haven't started. Seattle picks 5th because they have Denver's pick.
Oh, Denver.
Mm-hmm.
God, did they screw up.
And I'm pretty sure they also have their own, which will be decided based on the playoffs.
Yep.
So they'll have 2 first rounders. The Lions are going to pick 6th and 18th, thanks to the Rams.
Thank you.
So they will also get a chance as the rich get richer, and they address the defense some, and they're going to be them and the Bears. It's going to be real fun to watch next season, I think.
I mean, Lions could package that and move up. Ryan, have you heard anything?
About moving up to the 1?
About moving up to the 1?
No.
No.
None at all.
They'd have to give him a haul too to make that trade in division, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to get freaking Levis, I mean, or not Levis, but
Young,
Anderson, I just
Anderson.
don't see it. Yeah, it's like I wouldn't trade up for the one for it.
Yeah.
There's plenty of defensive linemen and like other edge rushers there that we can get at 6 that I'm not too worried about.
I mean, if they trade up, it would have been for a quarterback.
Yeah, they're not.
Godfrey.
They're not trading up for anyone.
I can see them hating. I can see them hating back to 18 and maybe taking a guy like Richardson for maybe for for that raw potential because it's just how athletic he is and just yeah.
Or even if a quarterback starts falling, you can see the 18th and another second or third round pick get traded up to a team, and that way they can pick that quarterback if it falls.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, because they don't need to go get somebody that's ready now, and we'll have a lot of draft coverage coming through here. But like most years, there's a couple guys that we look at and say, okay, yeah, they're developmental pieces, and you get them and see what it is. So they don't have to necessarily take a high quarterback with Goff under contract either. You can get somebody that's more of a developmental piece and let them sit. I don't know who like this year's Malik Willis is, but that's kind of what you're looking at.
It's Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
He is big arm, super athlete.
Or hell, don't forget Mahomes didn't start year 1.
No.
So,
but the Lions do need a backup quarterback because their backup quarterbacks are not backup quarterbacks.
So I think that's probably the play for the Lions there. Eagles pick 10th because they have the Saints first rounder, so they're gonna also be a really good team with high draft capital.
They're rich, definitely get richer. I don't know what holes they have. They're gonna literally be like Bijan right there.
Bijan Robinson right there.
They're gonna have holes in the secondary because with Bradbury and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson both being free agents.
True.
So they are gonna need to look probably cornerback and solidify that because I don't think they're gonna have the cap space to re-sign both. That's the only one I can think of. Maybe if Jason Kelce retires.
Yep.
And other draft news: Cleveland, the Rams, Miami, New Orleans, San Francisco, currently without first-round picks. In Denver. I don't know why they're not
suck. No, they
do have one.
They got one back from Miami.
That's right.
They got the San Francisco pick.
That's right. That's why Miami doesn't have one. They traded the San Francisco pick to Denver. So, yeah, Cleveland, Rams, Miami, New Orleans, San Francisco with no first-round picks. And the only team out of that only 2 teams out of that list where you can look at their performance this year and say, okay, yeah, they're probably okay without a first-round pick is Miami and San Francisco. Cleveland, the Rams, and New Orleans are not in a good way.
No. They're like, whoops, we screwed up again. Well, especially New Orleans, like it's like they think they are like
so dumb.
They're one person away, one play away. Nope. You're still another year
such
away.
a terrible draft pick or such a terrible trade. Draft pick was fine.
Absolutely no reason for it. All right, coaching changes.
Black Monday.
All right. Alphabetical order as we hit through interviews here real quick. The Arizona Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury was fired. Steve Keim stepped away. So they currently have head coach interviews lined up with Vance Joseph and Sean Payton, who cannot interview until after January 17th for the head coach position. And then for the GM position, Titans Director of Player Personnel, Monty Osenfort, Bears GM Ian Cunningham, who's a popular one throughout this, or Bears Assistant GM Ian Cunningham. Cardinals President of Player Personnel, Adrian Wilson. Cardinals Vice President of Player Personnel, Quentin Harris. Former Giants GM, Jerry Reese. I don't think their next head coach is in that list of interviews yet. I don't think they can pay for Sean Payton. And I don't know that they're going to spring on Vance Joseph and promote from within.
No, I think you're going to get a more offensive-minded head coach again, too.
Yeah.
I do.
Plus, like what I've been hearing for Sean Payton is it's not just a first-round pick they want for him. They want like multiple firsts for anyone like trying to trade for him.
I wouldn't give up a fucking...
Not for a coach, no.
It's so stupid.
New Orleans is just going to lose out on their own trying to get that price for him because he's not coming back to coach them.
Nope.
So take what you can get. Otherwise, you're just going to sit on his cushy TV.
Yeah.
GM position, I don't really care, honestly. Until they're in place. I think that, if you promote from within, if you're the Cardinals, I think that they've been fine. Not particularly with their draft classes, but definitely with what they've done in trades and free agency. I think they've made some good moves. Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham is somebody that was highly regarded when he came over to the Bears. And yeah, I definitely wouldn't be hiring anybody from the Titans. Carolina Panthers, after firing Matt Rule midseason, they've got interviews with interim head coach Steve Wilks, also Jim Caldwell, Frank Reich, Ben Johnson, who's the Lions offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, who's the Eagles offensive coordinator, Bills OC Ken Dorsey, Giants OC Mike Kafka.
I hope the Lions just keep Ben Johnson because Ben Johnson's name's getting mentioned. I'm sure you're going to say his name again.
I will.
He's like 3 or 4 spots. I know he's going.
Yeah.
Like, I want him to stay. Pay that man to stay.
Yeah, I mean,
He can block him. He can block teams who are interviewing him. So
yeah, but that's a douchey move.
I mean, yeah, sure, but I mean, we've seen it happen before, and eventually they'll get plucked out. That's just how it works in this, or he'll get promoted if something happens to Gamble. But it's just generally how they go.
Yeah. Do you think they go offensive or defensive in Carolina?
Ooh, maybe offense if they go quarterback, right? You're gonna want your head coach. They handpick who they want there. Both Darnold and Baker are free agents. We know we have our strong opinions against Matt Corral.
Yeah.
And we know that PJ Walker is the answer. They don't have the type of ammunition to move up the way that the other teams did. So we may see them continue to kind of it might be a bridge coach, honestly.
Yeah. And
their defense is so strong. I can't see them losing I can't see them losing more games than what they lost this year.
Yeah, I think if you go to a bridge coach that you just roll with Steve Wilks, he got a lot out of that team down the stretch.
He almost got him to the fucking playoffs.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
he was right at the borderline there.
Yeah, it may be. I think what Dallas wanted to do with Jason Garrett all that time ago is see what happens within a year. If you suck, you're going to be in line with a chance at getting one of these top quarterbacks on top of having a good young defense, and you just allocate your funds that way. Like DJ Moore might be the only offensive piece there besides the tackle they took this year. That's going to be a building block piece, and they're probably within a year or two.
And it's not like you don't have hot names on the head coaching market every year. So I mean, you're not really trying to jump at any of these guys this year like, oh my God, I'm going to miss out, because we see it every year where, popular names come around and will get promoted and get their shot, and some of them will stick and some of them won't, right? And basically, if your team was good, or you like Ben Johnson, you showed some big, or Shane Steichen, you showed some big strides, then you're going to get a look, and that's what's happening here. So, I think, but I don't know. I don't think they roll with Wilks, but it's another situation where I feel like they should, just from what he got out of the team down the stretch, because there's not an obvious answer here. You don't know
which direction the team's going to go right now either.
Well, you got to commit to something, right? You don't have a quarterback and your defense is ready. Are they in play for Derek Carr, perhaps?
Possibly. I mean, that'd be
nuts.
Yeah.
That'd be the best option.
Or Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers.
It's so weird to say no.
Or Zach Wilson.
I think Brady
hire Steichen and bring Gardner Minshew over.
I think Brady goes back to the Patriots. I do. Like one last ride again.
Watch him go to Oakland. Or not Oakland, but Vegas.
Team needs a lot of help.
They do. All right, Cleveland Browns. Their defensive coordinator position, they're looking at. They were looking at Jared Mayo, and then there was a report today that Belichick's going to keep him around, probably as a true DC. Also in that report was that he acknowledged the Matt Patricia experiment didn't work, and they're probably going to go back to a traditional offensive coordinator, which they absolutely should.
Mm-hmm.
I hate Matt Patricia. Gotta hate him.
Also in the running there, Steelers linebackers coach Brian Flores, Seahawks assistant head coach Sean Desai. Obviously, Flores got a bad shake there in Miami, being let go after what we thought was a really good job with a really not good roster. And Desai was the Bears defensive coordinator in the last year of Matt Nagy, where they were actually solid. For Denver, you've got a lot of big names. This is probably the most intriguing head coach, because this is a roster that should be ready, right, based on the personnel that's there. We're all going to question that based on what we saw this year, but this should be a ready roster. They're going to go heavy at head coach. They're looking at Saints head coach Sean Payton, Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh, Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, Broncos DC Ijiro Evero. Hopefully I pronounced that right. 49ers defensive coordinator D'Amico Ryans, and Rams DC Raheem Morris. I think this is where you're going to see a big name. This is going to be Peyton, or it's going to be Harbaugh for a bucket of money because they can afford it, or it's going to be Quinn. You're going to get somebody in Denver with head coaching experience, I think. You're not going to get a first-timer here.
I don't think it's going to be Jim Harbaugh, just because, like, Blake Corum said he's coming back, and I don't see why Blake Corum would come back if Jim Harbaugh is leaving.
Jim Harbaugh was very non-committal to anything in his statements to the press, right?
Yeah, that's how he always talks to the press. He's very like light anytime he talks to the press. He doesn't really like give them enough detail. I mean, it was last year. He heard the same thing. He was going to go to Minnesota. So,
thank fucking God. I don't hate him. I'm happy. I'm content with what we got.
Well, and this is interviews, right? So the fact that he's actually taking an interview says that he's open to the idea, and the Broncos ownership group has the money to throw a bucket at him. But I don't think this is a group that brings in a rookie head coach. I think they're going to bring somebody in with.
Where do you think? Which side of the ball do you think they want? Do you think they want offensive minded or defensive minded?
I think
here?
they want
offensive.
They want defense. I think they want.
I think
offense.
they want defense.
I think they want. I
think defense. Sorry, it's like we keep talking over each other at the same freaking time,
and we're saying completely opposite things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, why do you think they want defense? Go.
Because they already had the defensive built, so you might as well continue it and try to build it even stronger. Why would you want to bring an offensive coach in for that? Because
the offense sucks, and that's where you need to have improvement. You already have the defense and a good defensive coordinator, so you want to pair a good offensive mind and good offensive infrastructure to fix whatever was wrong there.
Yeah, but offense wins games and defense wins championships. So you want the defensive coordinator.
I hate that. That's such a bullshit model now. No, the offense gets you to every single place. You need defensive plays to win you championships. You don't need a strong defense.
And here's the problem, right? The defense didn't underperform. The offense underperformed based on the talent that you have there. It's not like they don't have – this is a team that you need to play to the strength of the roster, because both sides of the ball should be a strength of the roster. You need to fix what underperformed, and the only way you're going to do that is to get the infrastructure in place to do that. You're only going to get good offensive infrastructure in place by going the head coaching route. You're not going to get one of these great offensive minds just to jump to be an OC.
Yeah, but wouldn't Evero be more likely to jump up if anyone jumps up?
But teams aren't looking for – Evero is a defensive coach. Teams aren't looking for – we've seen plenty of times where the defensive coach gets overlooked. Saleh and Fangio are the only two defensive head coaching hires that really come to mind in recent memory.
How much influence does Russell Wilson have in this? Because I think Denver's going to have to – because they got to save their ass in this deal, right? Obviously, Russ this year was bad. It just him and Hackett, for whatever reason, and it'll be speculated on, where Russ is at this point in his career. But Denver has to save face to some extent, and I think this hire will have heavy influence in what.
Which way do you think they're going?
Oh, I think they're going offense.
Okay.
I think they want to go with something. That's why I think Sean Payton, they feel like the team who also overpaid to go get Peyton Manning would also do the same exact thing to get a guy like Sean Payton, who during his heyday was one of the greatest offensive minds that could work with this roster and get probably the most you can get out of Russ, and that has a insanely strong supporting cast already.
The only reason I hesitate on Peyton is because they're gonna have to give up something to get him other than just money.
I think
I think they will.
Well, I mean,
but I'm
was
kind of
what the Saints want in return. Yeah, I think Peyton may push. If Peyton has a good interview here, he may push.
Yeah.
To get to this place, and the Saints may be backed in the corner. I don't think it really matters. I think Denver, this would be the spot I think he wants to go if things go well. But I do think Denver is going to go offensive minded at least this round. It may still not work. I think they want to appease Russ and get him a head coach. I mean, I guess we got that with Hackett, kind of, right?
I still think the Hackett hire was to try to attract Rodgers, and then when it didn't work,
same here. Yeah,
right.
So, and obviously that's not in play. Like Rodgers ain't going to Denver now. So
no,
I think they're going to consult Russ with this. And if there's any ties to him throughout his time in Seattle, if a name pops up, don't be surprised.
Yeah. And, if Avero gets hired, good for him. But it's the point I was going there, Ryan, is you don't see a lot of defensive coaches get hired when the offensive coaching pool is strong and there's a limited number of openings. You're going to see one or two, but I don't know if he's one of them that gets plucked in comparison to some of these. Mayo was a big name before getting brought back. D'Amico Ryans is a big name that's been thrown around a lot. There are options on the defensive side of the ball, so. That's my only thing with Avero. I think they can retain Avero on the defensive side, and that pretty much solves that.
Yep.
Now, if Avero leaves, then yes, I could see them potentially going defense as well. Let's preserve this and try to bring somebody else in. But I think as it stands today, right now, January 12th, 2023, they're wise to go offensive side.
Fuck you, timestamp people.
Right.
Yeah.
We see you.
Who'll be listening to this on Friday the 13th on their drive into work?
Oh, yeah. My drive's only 5 minutes, so I don't got time.
A little longer.
I do have to go to work in the morning. Drive into an office. Houston Texans, they're looking, again, Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. Ben Johnson's in play here. Shane Steichen's in play here. Sean Payton's in play here. There is no fucking way Sean Payton's going here. And Jairo Avero, this is the worst job that you can take.
Yeah, there's no fucking way. Like,
they're not getting any of these guys in the first wave.
No big names, that's for sure.
They've had 2 one-and-dones. They've refused to do anything with the roster. They're in the middle of a rebuild. They've scapegoated 2 coaches during that rebuild, and refused to stick with anybody. If you're a coach, you're setting yourself up to go one and done without a lot of success here. You would need to see a long-term commitment from the Texans to be here. Peyton's not doing this. They don't have the roster. I think that he has no want to oversee a rebuild. Steichen's better off staying where he is. Avero's better off staying where he is. Ben Johnson can get a much larger payday if he sees the Lions rebuild through. Jonathan Gannon might have the most to gain from this. I don't think they're getting shit about shit in the first round, and they're going to have to go with another veteran head coach who's just looking for another shot in the second round.
Yep.
Yeah. That makes more sense.
I agree.
The Colts, probably the second worst job that you could go for.
There is a name that was announced 20 minutes ago that interviewed today.
Who's that?
Eric Bieniemy.
Oh, Bieniemy?
Yeah, he interviewed today for the head coaching position.
Again? like the fourth offseason where Bieniemy is a hot name.
I know it's kind of like the Zimmer thing, but on the opposite side of the ball, where it took
Yeah.
so long for Zimmer to get a head coaching job, and it maybe he's just better off staying in Casey at this point.
Or maybe he'll get it and do well.
He's going to Houston.
Yeah.
Colts are unenviable just because of the quarterback situation. I think the roster overall is good. You also have I like Jim Irsay, but when owners are over involved, I always think that's a negative situation.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
Interim head coach.
It's like Dallas.
Yeah. Interim head coach Jeff Saturday, there's no way. Harbaugh doesn't come back to go coach in Indy, I don't think. Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, that's a possibility. Ben Johnson, Raheem Morris, Shane Steichen, Ajero Avero, again. Colts are another one. They're like the Panthers, where I don't really have a good read on which way they're going to go. And they have a solid roster, but no quarterback. The Colts and the Panthers are pretty much the same damn team.
Yeah, Panthers might be in a better spot. Honestly.
Yeah, I like the Panthers better.
Oh, yeah.
Younger defense and younger pieces to build with.
This is probably, I look at this and Raheem Morris is what sticks out is like, there's a guy that's just looking for a shot as a head coach. Again.
Yeah. I don't see Harbaugh. I don't think they're keeping Saturday. I think that experience is done.
I have no idea how the Lions defensive coordinator is getting interviews, but here we are.
Yeah, Ryan, how is the Lions DC get interviews?
I don't know, because it was the DB's coach that actually got fired. It wasn't Aaron Glenn who everyone thought should have been fired because of the way their defense was such freaking garbage for the longest time.
He's getting
And
head
it's still
coach
garbage.
interview. Promote him.
Yeah.
He's probably wise to take this if they give him an offer at all.
He's going to Houston.
Actually,
Any
that might
shit.
be.
Well, let him go because I'd rather let him go than Ben Johnson. I don't want Ben Johnson to go anywhere. If
you
it's
should
one
want
of
to
the two,
keep. Yeah, you should want to keep Ben Johnson.
Take Aaron Glenn. I'm fine with that.
So Ben
Yes.
Johnson's going to go the route of Brian Dable and kind of wait to see
That's what I'm hoping.
his shining light happens, and then he'll move on.
Like even like if they make the playoffs and actually win a playoff game, that would be beneficial for Ben Johnson. I mean, just doing this, almost made
absolutely. Yeah.
We hung up our almost made the playoff banner, but still, it's not enough yet. I don't want to leave.
That's fine.
Yep.
You guys got a winning record. That's great. It's already a win.
Patriots moving on. They need a DC and an OC. Jared Mayo is it's already pretty much set. He's going to get promoted to DC here. Offensive coordinator, they'll begin taking interviews on January 16th for that position.
Because it wasn't Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
Everyone already knew.
So fucking stupid.
This is where Nathaniel Hackett lands.
Honestly,
Patriots offensive coordinator. I actually don't hate that.
Yeah, I can see that. Especially when he gets Tom Brady back.
Yeah.
If he's ever had him, but he'll go back to Green Bay. I don't fucking know.
Doubt it.
I know.
LaFleur has said it's open for him.
Well, LaFleur.
The Jets, I can think it's
The Jets LaFleur going to the Patriots.
Yeah. Well, I can't fucking beat him. Might as well just join him.
Right. That's Mike LaFleur. Tennessee Titans. They need a GM, so Glenn Cook, who's the Browns assistant GM, player personnel, Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham, who's a really popular option here. 49ers assistant GM Adam Peters. 49ers director of player personnel Rand Carthen. Titans director of player personnel Monty Austin-Fort. So Cunningham, Austin-Fort both showing up multiple times on this list. They'll probably get GM. Don't really care again. Young guys trying to get names. Ian Cunningham, I think, came over to the Bears from the Chiefs and took a promotion. So he has a little bit of clout behind his name. Anyone coming from the 49ers is going to have clout behind this name because of how well they've been able to sustain success.
Yep.
With deep rosters because they're not healthy ever. Some other changes. Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator Dean Pease retired after multiple seasons. He's ancient. 2 seasons with Atlanta, but he had plenty to go on before that.
Yeah.
We already talked about Kingsbury and Kime. Matt Rule. Cleveland Browns fired Joe Woods after 3 seasons. That's why they have an opening. We talked about Lovie Smith. Rams coach Liam Cohn left to take the same job at Kentucky, so the Rams are looking for an OC, potentially a head coach. We'll get to that in a second. Jets fired Mike LaFleur, so they'll be looking for an OC. Titans, Todd Downing dismissed after 2 seasons. They needed to fire their OC after how bad that
Huge
offense
disaster
looked.
seasons.
Yeah,
Well, rough.
And the Commanders fired OC Scott Turner, which is kind of
Titans. Same
yeah,
thing.
Same thing. Some other stuff here going on. Basically all around the Rams. McVay considering stepping down as head coach for Jay Glazer. Really taking time to evaluate that decision after the Super Bowl hangover, potentially taking a year off. The angle I didn't really think of here was that, after the injury to Stafford, the slow start, coming off of winning a Super Bowl, he might have been the most hungover of all of one. You had the rumors last year that he was thinking about stepping away, and it almost makes me wonder if his heart was in this past year, coaching-wise.
We've seen mental health start to, creep into the NFL, with guys like Calvin Ridley. Why can a head coach?
Right.
Like, these guys talk about the grueling hours and just what it takes to be a head coach in any sort of football. Just imagine the NFL where you don't see your family for days,
Months.
Weeks, months.
Well, McVay, especially being a young guy that has already reached the pinnacle, had a lot of success, could be looking to do some other things, but is also just noted as one of the most insane, crazy workers in the game. Maybe he's burnt out.
Yeah, trying to do too much at once.
Or maybe there's some shit with Stan Kroenke, because fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
I'm just saying.
And McVay's one like Peyton that could step away for a year or two, still be young enough and have the resume to get back into it if he were to decide to.
Yeah, I agree.
Then a couple notes on if he does step away, Raheem Morris would be in contention, which makes sense. If he does stay, Cliff Kingsbury could join, and they have an offensive coordinator opening. So
I think Cliff's going back to college.
I think so too.
Yeah, he should go back.
Which
to
he
college.
also fucking sucked in college, so maybe he'll be better.
You might have to wait though. Who's got a what?
I don't know.
Has an opening right now. Maybe Michigan. Does he go to replace Harbaugh if Harbaugh jumps back to the NFL?
No, hell no. He ain't gonna go to Michigan.
You don't think?
No.
I'm just saying,
Michigan.
Whoever gets Cliff is going to have to pay Cliff, and there ain't a lot of Power 5 openings at the moment.
Fucking Cliff, man. So always been overrated.
Michigan has the money to do it.
They do.
They're not going to do it.
I don't think Harbaugh's leaving Michigan. So
no. Nope.
I don't. I think we're going to go through that carousel
Cliff
again.
ain't
It's going to
going
be the
back
same
to
thing.
college. He's going to go be the OC for the Rams for a year, and then go back to college next year when those openings happen.
There you
go. That's not a.
That's how you do it.
He's going to Houston.
Yeah, offensive coordinator there.
He's going to go be the head coach.
Where if he sucks, it makes sense. Yeah. He'll be both.
He's got excuses.
He's going to be the entire coaching staff.
Excuses and no Kyler.
He'll be at Texas A&M after that.
All right. Beer review?
Sure.
And then
the
main event?
And the main event.
Beer review.
All right, I'm going to go first because I have to pee. I was drinking I Hate Illinois Nazis. It's a Czech style dark lager. Pretty damn good beer. I like Czech dark lagers first and foremost. It's a style I didn't see a lot of until the last couple of years, but they're light, they're clean, they have just a little bit of roast to them from the dark malt that's in there. This one might have just a touch too much roasty character for what I've had in the style. May need to tone down on the dark malt just a hair. But other than that, it's still pretty crisp. There is still a good amount of hop character that comes out of it. It's easy drinking. It's a good beer. Really, really good. I just think that, if I had one critique, it's maybe just a touch roasty for a Czech dark lager. That should be more of a subtle note than an upfront note, and it's kind of in the same realm as like what a stout roastiness is, but without the body. So I think maybe just a touch high on that. Other than that, good beer. I like Blind Pig. Their Piggy Pop is really good, and if you're ever through that eastern part of Illinois, Champagne's actually got 3 really good breweries plus some good food and stuff over there.
Absolutely. All right. Again, I'm drinking Bourbon County's 2021 release. This is the brand Cherry Wood Stout. Again, this is their stout aged in, I guess, aged and finished in the cherry wood barrel. It's not heavy in the cherry flavor as it shouldn't be. You're gonna get the dark fruit from it. You get some spices from it from the barrel. It's not the heaviest of bodies to this, but it's got your traditional IPA characteristics on top of adding in the cherry that's partaken from the barrel itself. It's good. Hasn't fallen off a bunch, but that's a good part of it.
And I had Athletic Brewing Company Run Wild IPA, and Dan, you are right, man. It tastes just like a beer. Like I take a sip of it, and it's more like a Sessions, but it also probably has to do with the calories. It's only 65 calories, so it's kind of hard to make something heavy out of that when the main ingredient is water, organic Vienna malt, malted barley, oats, hops, wheat, and yeast. So I don't know how many like filtrations does it usually go through when they do that.
They just boil out. Is it right? They just boil out.
Is it boil?
They just boil out the alcohol pretty much.
Yeah, I don't really know. I'll be fully honest with you. I don't really know how they do because those are all beer ingredients. The alcohol is a byproduct of the yeast. The only thing I can think of is that you don't get the starch conversion. It's something I've been meaning to research.
But yeah, I mean, it comes in at 0.5%. It says, contains less than 0.5% alcohol. And nice thing too is giving back says 2% of the sales go to restoring local trails. So it's like drinking for a good cause without having to, be irresponsible.
Apparently, there's 4 options: controlled fermentation. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to read up on this right now. But there's apparently 4 different methods you can get it on alcoholic beer. And it's always intrigued me, especially hearing the list of ingredients, because that is beer, right? That's everything that goes into beer.
Yeah.
There's apparently something you can do with fermentation. There's a dealcoholization process you can take it through and some other stuff. I'm not really sure how, because, when you get that conversion, create the sugars, and the yeast eat those sugars, that's what creates alcohol. So, and if they're going through the same normal beer process, it's all in post. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's all done. It's generally done during the fermentation process. So they'll
controlled fermentation.
Yeah, that and you basically boil it out. Like it's very fascinating, especially with the rise of craft NA. I've been having a blast moving mine when I'm out in Missouri. All right. Main attraction.
Beer-fueled Fuelies.
All right. Starting it off, fantasy football, rookie of the year. So the way that I think we'll do this is we'll roundtable who we submitted, talk about why, and then if there's a difference, talk about why we didn't go the other route. And then if anybody wants to flip, they flip. 2/3 consensus. All right. Dan, we'll start with you. Who is your nominee for fantasy football rookie of the year?
Kenneth Walker. Let me as usual, not ready.
That's okay. I was gonna roundtable nominees first, then we'll talk. So look it up.
Ryan, perfect. Kenneth Walker.
Ryan, who's yours?
Kenneth Walker the third also, or Ken Walker, not Kenneth. Ken.
All right, and mine is Garrett Wilson. So, I'm gonna go ahead and give you my reasoning for Wilson. Y'all give your reasoning for Walker. I'll rebuttal, and then we can go from there. So, to me, Garrett Wilson, 147 targets, was tied for 6th amongst wide receivers. He was 11th in air yards, 9th in red zone targets, 6th in unrealized air yards, which tells me how much more room he has to get to his ceiling. Had the offense played better, mind you, not on a great offense, 90th in target accuracy from his quarterbacks. Gave you a top 20 finish at wide receiver. Easily the most consistent of all rookie wide receivers. I don't want to say he's the only one that flashed, but he was heads and tails above really the rest of the class. Chris Olave, I think, would have been closest as far as consistency goes, and even he still was not necessarily close in any type of metrics. Garrett Wilson absolutely showed that he has what it takes to be a future one on a better offense. He blew away the field at his position, and to me, finishing top 20 at the wide receiver position where there's so much more competition for those spots than there are as a back end running back is kind of the differentiator there. I know running back's a more scarce position, but to me that makes it all the more impressive that he was able to put together a top 20 finish where you can basically end up a top 24 running back accidentally.
All right, I'll start. So it's kind of it's because of how important the running back position is where I tend to lean running back here. It's a lot simpler to find and to make up wide receiver production. I would agree that Wilson over Kenneth Walker in the actual rookie award, but for fantasy with how volatile the running back position is, and just kind of the importance of getting those late round picks to hit, Walker fits that billing perfectly. Like I at first I doubted, I was very against the Seattle backfield.
Yeah, you were
heavily against, and Walker. I'm not shocked that he was productive. I'm a little shocked how much he got used in the passing game, but again, that just speaks to how good the Seattle offense and team itself actually were. I mean, this is based on my perception that this team would be arguably the worst team in football. So Walker coming into a situation, being a top 10, being a top 15 running back in points per game, really, really highlights the importance of hitting on that spot, and absolutely no shade to Wilson. He would have been, it's almost like a 1A, 1B. I you can give them both and I'll be fine with it.
Yeah. Dude, that's a good way to put it too. Is basically give it both. Like, if you're for a wide receiver, it goes Chris Olave, but just like with Kenneth Walker, it's like you want that like immediate impact. You want that player that's going to hit right away. And yeah, sure, Walker didn't exactly hit right away. He didn't hit till actually week 5 when he finally had some meaningful hit. Yeah, but he had like 88 yards in his first touchdown, so he was already put on the radar. But after that, he had over 20 carries 6 times the rest of the season after that, and no less than, what was it? Well, he got injured in one game, I think. Or no, he had 10 for 17 against Tampa Bay. Never mind. That's where he had the 8 targets. So he made up like where he had 10 rush attempts, but then made up in the passing game or the receiving game by getting 8 targets, turning that into 6 receptions for 55 yards. So when everyone thought he was just a one positional type of running back, because he didn't do anything in college, he didn't catch anything, but he actually did catch in high school because I did a whole thing on him for FF Faceoff earlier in the season. And the way he can go back and forth with the ball, I love it. So getting that and then finish the season strong too with back-to-back games with 100 yards.
Yeah,
means a lot right there.
So the reason I didn't pick Walker, and this is half an honorable mention too, not so much to shit on Walker because I do like Ken Walker, well documented. It was also the separation of the position from the nearest rookie. Walker was only 15 yards ahead of Tyler Algier, which I think says more about our perception of Tyler Algier and how unheralded he is that they were that close. It doesn't really say quite as much about Kenneth Walker. I think that's more positive for Algier than it is a knock on Walker, is what I'm trying to say there. And that was only 15 yards ahead on just 18 more carries. He was also fewer yards per carry than Algier. Algier was only about 25 yards shy in receiving on roughly half the targets that Walker had. Algier also had the edge in true yards per carry and a much lower stuffed run rate. So, separation amongst rookies, Algier had damn near, outside of touchdowns, damn near as good of a season as what Kenneth Walker did, where there really wasn't anybody super close to Wilson. Again, that's not to say that Algier's a better running back. I think that they're pretty well equally as good in the rookie year. Obviously, Walker on a little bit better offense, more touchdown opportunity there. Both had slower starts for their own reasons. Walker definitely is the more dynamic and explosive player. But, to me, it's just give me the guy that was ahead of other rookies at his position. They finished in roughly the same spot on a year long. Yeah, when you go points per game, it's a little, it shifts things a little bit. I don't disagree that running back's a harder position to hit on. Wide receiver's a harder position to place in. So that's kind of me for Wilson. But also, again, just Walker was very, very close to Algier. There wasn't the same separation there. And again, I don't think, I don't want anybody to take that as a knock on Walker. That's more of a compliment to what Tyler Algier did. Is kind of an honorable mention sort of capacity. So just wanted to make sure that got in there.
And we did, briefly mention Chris Olave. I think Ryan brought him up. I mean, Olave, it's a lot of the same way he's the Algier to Garrett Wilson. Ran over 100 lets routes, actually had more points per game from the fantasy spot. And that's just highlights, the strength of wide receiver. It really highlights the strength of this wide receiver class, where it's, you get upside boom from London, you get upside from Burks,
and
Dotson, touchdown machine in Washington.
And pay attention,
which is crazy
for Dynasty and redraft next year, right? Because what we just gave you, if you're not paying attention, what we just gave you there is how much higher Garrett Wilson's ceiling is, how good yet unsung Tyler Algier was this year, and where the deficit was with Chris Olave and how much better he can be next year. We just gave you 3 sleepers right there.
Yeah.
Watch out for Atlanta, though. I mean, I always get scared about day 3 running back prospects that hit year 1. I mean,
I think everybody's going to, but you're
just
also...
watch out for Atlanta. Just watch to see what they do.
Yep. Absolutely. But, that's what you want to see, right? You got a day 3 guy that came out and actually produced at the same level as the second overall running back pick. So
if they're smart, yes.
And he's never going to be a pass catcher. That's the other thing. Walker has so much more pass catcher.
We've seen it do.
But
that's a big thing.
I say that, and he caught 16 to 18 targets and had damn near the same yardage. So maybe I'm wrong.
They're both going to be probably average to below average in receiving production.
Yep.
Year over year.
All right. Congratulations. Neither of you are flipping. I know that. So congratulations, Kenneth Walker, on your Fuely. Aaron will get that in the mail again, presented by the FF Face-Off.
From Trophy Smack.
All right. Yeah, Trophy Smack. The David Johnson Fantasy Football Bust of the Year. This one was unanimous.
It hurts.
Jonathan Taylor across the board.
Yes.
Yeah.
All injury related, though, in my books. That's the reason why. That's how I read the David Johnson one.
But I was told that CMC is more injury prone than Jonathan Taylor was, guys. Yeah. I'm shocked by how Jonathan Taylor
and Saquon Barkley is more injury prone than Jonathan Taylor. They finished as the 1 and the 5.
My bad.
Upside, receiving upside always.
Absolutely. So, yeah, not really a lot to say on that. That one's very well documented. Your Fuely is in the mail, I guess, if you want it. We'll send that one from Anthony so he gets all the hate since it's not a positive one. All right.
That's fucking good. Fucking Ryan, man.
Matt Nagy, Please Be For Real Coach of the Year award, which is a nod to that one time Matt Nagy won Coach of the Year and then sucked after that. For the well, what we think is our coach of the year. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and start with why you think Nathaniel Hackett was the best coach of the year?
Because I misread that. Matt Nagy, and please read for real. Please be for real. Coach of the year, and you said not worst coach. After I already did it,
It's a coach
you
of the
put
year.
that in.
Like it literally says coach of the year.
Yeah.
Right. As in I thought like, the coach that should not even be a coach.
Maybe we'll add
And
that
that's-
next year.
So it just said originally this one said just coach of the year award. Didn't have any quotations around saying not worst coach ... like it does now. But yeah, I picked Nathaniel Hackett because he is the coach of the year who should have never been a coach.
Yeah,
And
so
it showed
so
how
who's your
bad it
actual
was.
coach of the year?
I'm going Dan Campbell, man. Just the way he played. Killed the
Fucking-
season, finished the season.
Fucking Homer.
All right.
That's fine.
We're gonna have to.
If it came to Nathaniel Hackett, I'm going.
Fine,
Dan
I'm changing
Campbell.
mine to Kevin O'Connor. No, I'm not.
Yeah, no.
I'm
We're
going
gonna no.
No.
Ryan fucking Homer.
All right, we're gonna end up debating this a little bit till we get to a consensus. So you're on MCDC. So Dan Campbell, who we all love Dan Campbell. You're a fantastic job with the Lions. Defense wasn't where it needed to be. Absolutely improvements. Players want to run through a brick wall for him. They're fun to watch. Not enough bad things or good things I can say.
Not in the
about that.
playoffs. That's the only reason why he's not
That's
not nominated.
it.
He's gonna see him to the playoffs.
One win away. Dan, you went Brian Dable.
I went Brian Dable. This one's
Popular one.
tough. Because I debated between him, your pick, and Doug Peterson. Nick Sirianno. There's and then of course Kyle Shanahan and shit like that. But Dable to me was dealt the worst hand.
Yeah.
One of the worst rosters in football, especially in offense.
Oh yeah.
Daniel Jones was an absolute. I wouldn't call him a dumpster fire. That might be an insult to dumpster fires, but he was bad. Massively turnover prone, lost in direction, and just
Would be an insult to dumpster fire.
yeah. And then just what Gettleman had left over, and to take that team, because the defense always had key pieces, especially after the draft, after them adding Thibodeau, to their pass rush. To get this team and to get the offense and really to get Daniel Jones to become more of a game manager-esque, almost like a not quite as game manager, not turnover guy, Alex Smith, because you still get the rushing upside with him too, but to turn him into one that can, protect the football, that can still lead the offense, and to get this team into the postseason, and they have it locked, they have their playoff berth locked before week 18 is a lot of the same reasons why we'll probably talk about with Doug Peterson too. It's to get this team to perform when they need it to the most. That's why I think Dabo should. I don't think there's one runaway pick here. Like I think some people may think,
No.
but there's a lot of better picks. And unfortunately, I don't think either of these guys will actually win it, which is a sad thing because it typically goes to the team with the best record or the best offense or the best quarterback, like how the actual MVP tends to be. So congrats, Andy Reid. You're going to fucking probably get it.
I haven't even paid attention to who.
What?
Oh, like the odds for coach of the year.
I actually have no clue, but I don't think their team records are going to be strong enough. I don't think
So it was
wild card teams are going to get that nod. I think it's got to
No,
be probably one of the
you're-
best records.
You're right. It's usually newcomers too. It was Vrabel last year at 12-5. It was Stefanski the year before with the Browns at 11-5. It was John Harbaugh with the Ravens at 14-2 in 2019. Matt Nagy in his first year at the Bears at 12-4. Sean McVay with the Rams at 11-5. Jason Garrett 13-3. Ron Rivera twice with the Panthers. Bruce Arians with the Cardinals. So it's a lot of times like just looking at this, it's a newer coach on a team that won double-digit games.
Which, I mean, the Giants went what, 11-5? I'm sorry, 11-6.
11-6.
Doug Peterson went 9-8.
Oh no, 11-5-1.
That's right.
Oh, 'cause they
Giants
had the tie.
The tie.
Yeah.
Yes. 11-5-1. So Dabo could. I think
He very well
with-
could, yes.
with Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid, and then Nick Sirianni, I think those are probably your three that will probably get it.
Nick
Whatever.
Sirianni overseeing.
Nick Sirianni, not Sirianni. Yes.
Yeah, I am just
Sirianni.
used to it. I didn't correct you. That's why.
I know.
Nick Sirianni, doing what he did with the progression of Jalen Hurts and that offense and the Eagles into a juggernaut, I think is deserving. Shanahan, it seems like every year you see this magic trick where, they're down to their fifth running back and third quarterback and 18th wide receiver or whatever, and they're still competitive and they're still in games and they're still winning games. Like, you could argue for Shanahan every year because of how he's just able to overcome that seemingly every season.
So your two best odds, actually, Brian Dable and Nick Sirianni.
Nice.
Yeah.
I did have Doug Peterson as mine. I'm going to switch to Dable just because he was my second option anyway. And that way we can get consensus. I almost put him down, but I knew that was the popular choice. Doug Peterson taking the shit show that was Urban Meyer. A year of Trevor Lawrence being set back, a year of that roster being set back, and going not just from worst, but a shit show of worst to playoffs, I think is a very, very good job coaching wise from what Peterson was able to do to get Trevor Lawrence to progress after a year of being set back, to get the most out of that offense, to get that defense to overperform. I think he did a masterful job there. Also want to give a shout out to Mike McDaniel in Miami. If you listen to how he coaches, how he's worked with Tua and everything, it's hard to ignore the job that he did. And then Ron Rivera in Washington, I think keeping that team ready to play and competitive with also not a great roster under all of the bullshit that happens in a Dan Snyder run organization. And for that really to feel like it was separate from football because of how well Rivera was able to keep his guys focused and everything, I think is a testament to him. So special shout out to McDaniel, Rivera. I'm going to flip over to Dable, though, from Peterson.
I'll give my shout out to KOC to get a Vikings team to 13 wins.
Yeah.
And to be able to take a team that was historically the last 2 years one of the worst teams in one-score games to a perfect record this year, to get this at times, to get this team to actually perform when they needed to, even despite the bad, the few bad games and bad halves that they've had this year. It's a lot of playoff games are one-score games. We'll just say that.
Sweet. All right, Brian Dable. Congratulations on your Coach of the Year award presented by Fantasy Faceoff. Ryan Miner, or the FF Faceoff. Ryan Miner will be putting that trophy in the mail for you.
I'll hand deliver it.
The golden handcuffs.
You'll hand deliver it. You'll drive over to New Jersey. Here you go, bud.
New Jersey.
Here you go, Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, Brian Dable.
Universal again, because you don't get to do you don't get to pick two, so I'm taking the first one on the list.
Well, that's an honorable mention.
Okay, well,
that's fair. That's
fair. The beer fuel, the golden handcuffs for what the fuck scandal / arrest of the year. Dan Snyder across the board.
Yeah.
Is this second year in a row for Snyder?
No, I think AB won it last year.
I think AB did get it last year. I think you're right. For his meltdown and everything. So Dan Snyder. And the ticket scandal and sexual assault scandals and I've got so much shit on the other owners scandals, and then I'm not selling, and now I think they are selling, and yeah. Worst human
Trying to do
being
some money
in
laundering
sports.
there. Right?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Oh.
And then Antonio Brown for honorable mention, just because the way he just keeps acting and doing things. And
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a laughing matter. I mean,
literally,
it's
it's very sad. It
really
really
his
is.
mental health is like screwed up. It's like, I don't know what's wrong with this guy.
a lot of things.
But like I keep seeing like more things come out on him now. I'm like, oh my god, like there's like this sending photos to some young boy, like teenage boy
Hmm.
that I just read. I'm like, oh my god, what the hell is wrong with this guy?
All right. Yeah. Anyway, congratulations, Dan Snyder. We're not sending you anything because you would just
A cease and desist letter, and maybe
Yeah,
some poison. I'm just kidding.
your lawyer will deliver it to
We'll
you.
give you a
You'll be
gift card.
served it.
We'll give you a $25 gift card to your lawyer.
In a vanilla envelope.
We'll pay it forward.
A manila one
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Did he say vanilla envelope? It's flavored.
Manila.
We're giving it.
No.
We're giving them flavored envelopes.
Yeah, whatever he's into, you know.
It's a scratch and sniff.
It's part of the scandal.
Scratch and sniff.
It's a scratch and sniff envelope.
The name of the show. It's a scratch and sniff. The Tom Brady, what is dead may never die. Player you thought was done, but isn't. I'm going to go ahead and start this one. We are all three different here, so going to take some convincing. Minus Tyler Lockett. Everybody left the Seattle wide receivers for dead this year. They were way down draft boards. DK was down there. Lockett was down there, and very quietly because I saw no love for him really at all throughout the season. Tyler Lockett went out, 9 touchdown season, over 1,000 yards, 117 targets on 84 receptions. By some metrics, the second best season of his career. He did miss one game. He was good enough to finish as a wide receiver one in PPR. He was 12th overall. Continues to maintain the elite win rate and separation rate at 30 years old that made him good and made him a breakout candidate when Doug Baldwin left. Just consistent. That's my favorite type of fantasy player. You know, I was worried about the drop off, and it did not happen at all. There was no drop off there. You likely got him at a very, very good value in the draft after the Seattle offense in general was left for dead. He's not flashy. He just grinds it out and is consistent every year. So mine is going to Tyler Lockett. We got 2 Seahawks and a bunch of touchdowns. So other Seahawk or a bunch of touchdowns. Whoever wants to go next.
I'll go with a bunch of touchdowns. So.
Go ahead, Ryan.
All right. My pick was Jerick McKinnon. And the reason why I went with Jerick McKinnon is because this whole backfield was just a shit show for the majority of the season until about week 14. Actually, it was week 14 when Jerick McKinnon actually blew up for over 32 fantasy points and finished as the RB1 for that week. So not only did he finish RB1 that week, but he also did RB1 week 15 and RB7 week 17 to win your fantasy championship. So for a player who everyone compared to in his Minnesota days as the Adrian Peterson, the next Adrian Peterson to come up, Matt Kelly player profile did. That was his comparable.
There's no.
Back in the day.
It might have been, but that's not a good comparison.
It may have been, but that's a horrible. Yeah, that's
that was
Tom.
That would make.
But like,
God, yeah.
he had like, you know, he always had like those like fantasy appearances where he have that one good game and then everyone would go pick him up on waiver wires and then he never do anything ever again. Same thing in San Francisco. Everyone was all excited and then he got towards ACL then. And then here it's like, you know, last year he didn't do that great. And this year he finally showed up here at the end. So it's like it worked in the offense. It's going to work in this playoffs. Like I think he's going to be actually the RB1 for them next year. And he was someone that you actually got off the waiver wire. He wasn't anyone that was actually drafted in most leagues.
Throwing it back to McKinnon, my reasons for not going McKinnon were, I think, one, consistency. So for waiver wire pickup, you can really go any point for consistency or for, you know, what is dead may never die. I like consistently high performing throughout the year. McKinnon did finish as a top 2 running back, though. He had 9 freaking touchdowns. Or not a top 2, a top 24. He had 9 freaking touchdowns. But also, I am definitely in the minority here, but I never thought McKinnon was dead. I jumped on the Seattle receivers are dead. I was very, very much on I think after what McKinnon did in the playoffs last year, he might be the Kansas City running back you ultimately want to end up with. And it took 14 weeks, but it ended up being right.
Yeah, but how many seasons has Jerick McKinnon been in the league? and it's kind of been like
2013,
Yeah, 2013, and he's had, I think,
2014.
he missed several years due to injury.
2018 through 2019 he didn't play.
So
Yeah.
my one concern, my one reason why McKinnon was the RB49 in PPR from weeks 1 through 11.
Yeah. And then,
so granted, I understand the playoffs is going to put a lot of emphasis on his finish and why he should be up there and what fits for this category. But he was effectively a ghost of himself. He was literally dead until week 12, until Clyde was effectively banged up, done for the year because they kept riding. He was a first round pick, so we got to continue to ride him. Pacheco can't catch a football. He is literally there in between the tackles guy, and that's it.
Yeah.
And they found their Damian Williams. And I've rolled McKinnon in a lot of leagues because I wanted a piece, just like the Niners backfield. I always want a piece of the Chiefs backfield. So little more production first off. Obviously, he had one touchdown prior to that, but he was effectively a free agent for most people until probably after the Cincinnati game, until it became apparent. But even then, right, only from his breakout weeks from week 12 and on, only 2 games over 50% snap share. So like, again, he's not someone you're going to play because of the offense, but he was never a true on RB2 because you couldn't trust the actual, is he going to get enough touches in this offense to survive or, to be able to produce, which thankfully he did. Which goes to show that the Chiefs really should give him more work, but
his hyper efficiency at the end too. I think it was like,
we took on the Hunt role too,
something like 70 carries by the end of the year. He had 9 receiving touchdowns.
Had one game with over
10.
Yeah, it's his touch count, which was high. He was essentially another Austin Eckler with less carries. All right, so mine. We're going to go with the person that threw Tyler Lockett the football, and that's Geno Smith. This one I had a tough time trying to figure out what I wanted to do here. Geno pretty much was effectively dead. Tyler Lockett was dominant. He was a household name. I understand why he's on here.
Tyler Lockett, we just thought was dead. Geno Smith was actually dead for several years.
Yeah, Geno Smith was on multiple teams as backups: the Giants, the Jets, the Chargers. Well, he got drafted by the Jets, but the Giants and Chargers, like he jumped around on teams. He was brought in to back up Russell Wilson. Then he had a fight for a shot against Drew Lock, which I don't know how much of a fight it was. And while Geno wasn't a dominant QB,
the rap battle he would have lost.
If he's doing a single line to Young Jeezy, he would have totally lost. But what you got from Geno Smith was it 14 games, double-digit touchdowns? I think he had 14
double-digit touchdowns.
Well,
14 games of 10
multiple
touchdowns.
Passing,
more.
yeah.
Right.
Multiple, yeah. Got maybe the RBU.
180 touchdowns this year.
So many. Multiple passing touchdowns. I think it was right around 13. He had above 12 or 13 a QB1 finishes on the season. So he was not only a viable streamer almost each from game in and game out. It's I think he is the poster child for what is dead may never die. Outside of Frank Gore, because he always was productive regardless of what team he was on. Geno Smith was literally probably on his couch waiting for the call, and it came in on an offense that literally nobody thought was going to be any good. Like, this offense was completely dunked and shit on, and Geno Smith was a part of that. We were wondering why Drew Lock wasn't going to get the actual start, because there's some upside to him and his future compared to we already knew who Geno Smith was,
but we didn't.
We had no fucking clue. That was completely proved wrong. And congrats to them. I mean, really congrats to Detroit for not allowing Green Bay to make it, but congrats to Seattle for
they were supposed to be the worst team in the league.
They were supposed to be right up there with Houston and Chicago as the 3 worst teams in football.
Shut up, Pete Carroll too, I guess.
Nah, fuck him. But
Hate to
yes,
admit
no,
it, but
I'm-
yeah.
I'm kidding. It's true. He and that defense and Smith was really the backbone of that offense.
I find I find it really, really hard to argue with Geno Smith, especially when he was the guy throwing my guy the football, and was actually dead for several years.
Yeah. Everyone was scared of that team.
You should call
Yeah.
it the D.D. Westbrook Award. Oh man, that's a true callback. Episode 4,
Westbrook's floor.
the D.D. Westbrook's floor. Oh man.
Turns out there was no ceiling, so
Oh,
he
he had his moments.
did have his moments.
Moment.
He had his
Moment. Any objections to just giving that one to Gino?
No.
No, none for
No,
me. I think it's the
'cause
most
he made-
compelling argument.
he made the playoffs and Russell Wilson didn't. So
Yeah.
you know,
it's the whole Seattle
It's,
effort, man. It really is.
Real hard to argue with the guy that was throwing my guy the football.
yeah.
So, all right. The Chris Carson Steal of the Year, waiver pickup or late round pickup of the year, named after Chris Carson. Rest in peace, his career. Unfortunately, ended due to injury, but named after him because it seemed like for years in a row, Chris Carson was always the guy you were grabbing off of waivers or late in drafts. It was just consistent, even though you never expected him to be. So, late round steal or waiver pickup of the year. And Dan, we'll start with you.
Evan Ingram. This one I also really struggled with. Just because I was trying to figure out who was actually late round steals and what actual waiver pickups were going to be good this year. And the fact that Evan Ingram pretty much was a waiver pickup, I think that's why I wanted to go the route that I did. Look, it's a Doug Peterson offense. It's no shocker that the tight end got involved. Evan Ingram, he was a first round pick, hyper athletic. Obviously, he was kind of the new-ish Jimmy Graham when he was drafted by the Giants. He was a move slot tight end with real no upside as a blocker because of his thinner frame at the time when he was drafted. So, but to really speak on him, on Ingram as a producer, in a year, if you didn't have Travis Kelce, you were kind of fucked at the tight end spot. Ingram found his moments to shine. The consistency wasn't always great, but then again, if you don't have Travis Kelce, what consistency is really much there? But like McKinnon with Ryan talked about him in the previous category, Evan Ingram really came on in the back half of the season. He had multiple weeks of double-digit targets, multiple weeks of over 100 yards receiving. He has a 4-week stretch from weeks 13 through 16 is a top 5 finish, top 6-ish finish with the tight end one finish over 39 points, almost 40 points in 1 week. So I don't think he'll win this spot because tight ends are kind of a dime a dozen at this point, when it comes to streaming. But more of a shout out to Ingram and just more of a shout out to the fact that a guy that what is Edmund Never Die actually found his spot and really somebody you should probably start looking at in Dynasty, because I think the long-term potential in this offense with Doug Peterson, Evan Ingram is going to be someone you should look at, especially if you need tight ends, especially in tight end premium type of leagues.
All right.
Mine was just
Who wants to go?
Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead, Ryan.
I say mine was Justin Fields, but what he did, like, it sucked though because I drafted him in a lot of leagues, and I was thinking like, oh yeah, I'll hold him for a few weeks and then see what he does. And then what was it? 5 weeks in, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm dropping him. He's not doing anything. And then here he shows up week 8 against Dallas and puts up 30 points to follow it by back-to-back the QB1 in week 9 and 10 with over 50 points. And I think he did 50 points in both games where he had over almost 150 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. It against Detroit, and before that, 178 yards and 1 touchdown. And like what you picked him up for was just like he was almost like that Tim Tebow in a way, where like he wouldn't do the pass efficiency, but he'd have the rushing ability, and that rushing ability is what helped me win quite a few games when I picked him up.
Lamar Jackson. He is.
Yeah,
He is rookie year Lamar Jackson.
yeah. I mean, especially like against Detroit. I mean, like Detroit just left them like wide open in the backfield. Like, go ahead and do what you got to do. I mean, you know, you're not going to throw it. You're going to run it. So we're just going to wait for you to run. So, but he was still able to get over 132 yards against the Lions. So, but he also went 7 for 21. So I can't complain about that. But yeah, I like Fields. I think he's definitely going to improve. I mean, with what he did compared with what he had is a whole nother story, because you shouldn't produce this kind of fantasy points with no players, but he did using his legs.
Couldn't figure out why this beer didn't taste like what I thought I poured, and then I realized I poured the wrong tap, which explains why it tastes like Banana Runs instead of Scottish Light.
It's a pretty big difference, yeah.
Yeah, between a Dunkelweizen and a Scottish Light, a little different.
Little different. Just a little bit different.
Not really what I was going for, but, you know, it's already in the glass, so we'll drink it. I was on Ramondre Stevenson. Late round pick or waiver pickup for a lot of people. Finished as the RB8 overall, basically as a late round draft pick or a waiver wire grab. At a position that, as Dan mentioned earlier, it's really, really hard to find players that hit. It's even harder to find a wire-to-wire, damn near consistent player late in the draft or on waivers. But RB8 overall, he saw 89 targets, so PPR leagues especially there, nearly 1,500 scrimmage yards overall on an overall regressed offense at a position with very, very little depth. Actually, the next closest running back waiver wire pickup was Jerick McKinnon, and he was the RB19, over 11 positions lower. Everybody else between them essentially was drafted, not available on waivers. And McKinnon did it, as mentioned, on 9 touchdowns without a lot of consistency, and really didn't take off until week 14. You know, Stevenson had his injury issues. You know, with quarterbacks, you're going to get streamers week in, week out. Yes, a lot of rushing upside to Fields, but you're going to get streamers week in and week out. But with running backs, if something happens that you didn't draft, you're a lot of times like scrambling, or you're hoping for an injury and you're getting somebody like Foreman that is going to give you several good weeks, or Herbert early in the year when Montgomery was out. But to find somebody that is a week in, week out starter late in the draft or on waivers like you're able to do with Stevenson this year is exceedingly rare. So for that reason, he is my late rounder or waiver pickup, because he's the one running back you can say this year, if you gambled on him wire to wire, you're in good shape. And that is such a thin position to be able to get somebody that's going to finish top 10 for next to nothing.
If only he had a better playoff stretch, but I think I may, he was going to be my pick. I wanted to go different so we can have some conversation.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to give a shout out to Ingram. That's why I picked Ingram. Fields was also like it was between Fields and Stevenson.
There's not a bad pick here.
No.
Yeah. No, they're all good.
They all basically finished. I mean, Stevenson, not top 5, but I mean, really, he was an RB1. Like all 3 of these guys were top 12 at their positions, top 5 for both Ingram and Fields. So I'll give my nod to Stevenson. Awesome. Just because of position scarcity.
Yeah. Evan Ingram is also, I will give this to Ingram too. That is a scarce position to be able to get somebody for damn near free that's going to perform at an elite level. And he was
pretty much free.
Especially, I think the biggest difference there is it took a bit for him too. He picked up about mid-season down the stretch and really took off.
Yep.
So, yeah.
He was a player I even picked up, and he helped me win a league.
Yeah. I drafted him. He helped me finish not well in that league. Not his fault. Comeback player of the year. So this is a return from injury or ineffectiveness. You guys both went CMC. I'm good with that. I'm going to give a shout out to Barkley, because a lot like CMC, he didn't return to his former elite self, but my take on Barkley has always been that you probably were never going to get rookie year Saquon again, but you could get back to sophomore year Saquon and be totally fine with it because that was a top 5 or 6 running back. That's exactly what he did this year. McCaffrey bounced back to be, I think he was the RB1, wasn't he?
RB2.
RB2.
Yeah.
That's right. So McCaffrey bouncing back to take the RB2, I do think takes precedence, but I had Jacobs just because I wanted to give a nod, or not Jacobs, that's later. I had Barkley just because I wanted to give a nod to Barkley for also bouncing back from injury and back into top 5 prominence.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Either
They're both guys. I
Yeah,
heavily drafted both of them.
I think a lot of people did because they were a better value than they're ever going to be.
Barkley was the better value, especially early on. I mean, CMC was always generally consensus top 3 running back and really top 2. He's always my RB1 throughout the entire process. And he's just kind of paid off, especially after the move to San Francisco, where a lot of people started to come sour on him because of the whole, how is he going to fit into their scheme, especially with a lot more better playmakers to it. And while there were some downer weeks there, his rise towards the end of their year was pretty massive.
Yeah. No disagreement there. That trade to the 49ers really kicked McCaffrey into gear.
It did. It was awesome.
Yeah, that and Mitchell kind of going down kind of helped a little bit, but I think that would have happened no matter what.
All right, Christian McCaffrey, your comeback player of the year award is in the mail. We'll send some intern writer to do it, to send that off, or however that works.
Intern writer.
Somebody that's in the chat group that has never written an article in their life will. So Dan will be sending you the award. At least we podcast kind of for them.
Yeah.
From out of nowhere, breakout player of the year. So this is somebody nobody pegged as a breakout that jumped out to be a breakout. And again, 3 good options here. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Jamal Williams, man, Detroit Lion running back. Homer pick there. So yeah, go ahead. 17 rushing touchdowns though for the season. 2 of them against the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, but I was trying to see if he did it twice.
He did it.
No, he didn't do it against them twice.
No,
he only did it just in the last game. But I mean, he was just a touchdown machine. It was just touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, and it's like he was one of those running backs that no one drafted, or if you did draft him, it was super late. And he got to the point where he was actually an RB1 and starting in lineups. And then he went on his drought of no touchdowns, and then he ends the season again with touchdown streak.
Literally the Garrett Blunt. Like the amount of 1-yard touchdown runs, it's impressive.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Speaking of the touchdown runs too, like all those touchdown runs, I think he had 6 from the 1-yard line.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and I think a lot of those were like passes where the receiver got tackled at the 1, and he just punched it in. So think how much better Jared Goff could have been in fantasy, knowing that those 1-yard touchdowns weren't to Jamal Williams and went to Jared Goff instead.
Yeah, but Jamal Williams is also a national treasure. We have to protect him.
Oh my God, he's awesome.
Yeah, no, he's if there's like personality of the year, I'm giving it to Jamal Williams, hands down. It'd be like
every year,
Jamal
probably.
Williams and Mike McDaniel. They were in the running for that. Maybe MCDC, but yeah. Either way. All right, I'm talking, so I'll go. Josh Jacobs was my pick. Finishes the overall running back 3. Previous years, he was 12, 8, and 23. I don't think anybody expected his touch volume to bloom up to 340 rush attempts and, just this otherworldly amount of bell cow that he hadn't been in the past. But not only did he do it, he stayed healthy while doing it. Probably more blow-up games than any other player. And, yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is that it was increased workload that got it. That was always the knock on on Jacobs and what we kind of thought kept him from being good was that there was always something, Kenyon Drake, nagging it. Zamir White, yeah. Nagging it, that workload and getting involved in that workload and keeping him from being a true bell cow. They gave him true bell cow work this year, and that increase led to an RB3 finish. It wasn't, we know touchdowns are fluky. I love Jamal Williams to death. Like, Garrett Blunt's the only one that consistently put together fantasy seasons on back-to-back double-digit touchdowns. Aaron Jones has proved over the last 3 years that they're fluky.
Oh, yeah.
Again, much love to Jamal Williams. No hate there. But touchdowns are fluky. So for Jacobs to do it, yeah, touchdowns matter. But for him to do it on the strength of increased workload and not just a bunch of goal line carries, to me, to propel him to an RB3 finish, yeah, that was not anything I was expecting. I was expecting him to hang out, back end one and just be good.
Jacobs was like what was my player I was avoiding in all drafts too.
I don't think,
and I wish I didn't.
Anybody was predicting a Josh Jacobs breakout.
No.
I mean, especially with how many people were touting Zamir White.
Not me. I hate Zamir White, but
but it like the sad thing was it was always fucking running backs that should have never gotten as much passing work. I know, we joke about how much we like Kenyon Drake, but Jacob should have always commanded more from him. Amir Abdullah, the Theo Riddicks of the world. Jacobs is number one in opportunity share. That's what shocks me the most.
Yeah.
In a team that, and this may be more of a nod to Josh McDaniels. It's probably the likely reason why he just stuck with his best running back, and it worked for him. I'm talking. I'll jump into mine, which shouldn't win, but I gotta give a shout out to a guy that literally got shit on by everybody. Daniel Jones. He's a QB1. He was a high-end QB streamer, 18 points or so per game. He was part of that high-end streamer category. He had 6 top 5 finishes at the QB position, including the second best finisher based on some scoring to the number 1 QB in the most important week in fantasy football, your championship week, in a game in a must-win scenario in which I benched him for Brock Purdy, but still won, thankfully. But Jones, I like Brian Dable. It just really came along this year. It's going to get probably a bridge contract that's going to keep him in New York to see if he can continue to further progress. Is he going to become the next Josh Allen? No. But the Giants are continuing to add in more weapons to this team in the offseason. I fully expect that through the draft. And Jones in himself, it's very clear that his rushing ability, his rushing upside, and being able to actually produce as a passer, given the shit show of receivers he threw to, Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodges, Richie James, he didn't make his heyday with some of the best in the league. He literally took a comparable level to what Justin Fields threw at and was able to find a lot of success to it. So I had to give a shout out to Jones here. My pick was always going to be Josh Jacobs. So I just to me, as Hopper mentioned, with the argument to Jamal Williams, I don't reward on just 1-yard touchdown runs.
As much as we love Jamal Williams, he's gonna be a fan.
I love him as a person. Those should have always gone to DeAndre Swift.
Just
give him the one fucking player and be done with it. It should not be fucking around with this. But shout out to Jamal though. And 17 touchdowns is pretty nuts.
Well, he always had double-digit carries every game too.
Yeah,
all out of one.
He is basically the doom and gloom to your favorite running back, whether it's Aaron Jones or DeAndre Swift. He is going to command touches, and wherever he goes next, because he is a free agent this year, Godspeed to whoever the running back is there. If he goes to the Raiders and they somehow resign Josh Jacobs, because I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah,
he's going to Philly. Jamal Williams. I'm just throwing that out there.
Chasing the money.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs is.
Jamal Williams. I can see Josh Jacobs going to Philly too. But
Bears,
I think Philly's
Bears are going to sign Josh Jacobs as David Montgomery's replacement. They got a bunch of little cap space. Fuck
he's
it.
they gotta spend money.
Yeah.
They have to spend money. So
Yeah.
do.
might as, in a bad wide receiving class for free agents, might as well overpay at running back.
That's kind of where I'm at. Might as well pay a running back and use it on some defensive players because you've actually got some good players out there.
The RPO would kill it with Fields. So I will say that. And
Oh,
improved
yeah.
offensive line, hopefully. But David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert, the Bears had one of the best rushing attacks in football. Now actually put in a running back that's showing some durability, plus upside now with being able to handle every touch volume. Yeah. Oof. Be fun.
All right. Fantasy football most valuable player. Shout out to whoever we just gave that to. I think it was Josh Jacobs. Shout out Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, it was Josh Jacobs.
Fantasy football MVP. Go ahead, Dan, because you're the oddball here.
Yeah. Again, look, I understand why you guys went where you were, right? The difference between the number one spot and the number two spot, that is literally the reason why this player should be there. Eckler is more so, again, the importance of running back position. Is a floor this year in actual fantasy games was 11 points, and that was in week 1. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games of 20 or more points, including the RB1 through your 2 most important weeks in fantasy football in week 16 and 17, as the consensus 5th running back in 16 and the number 1 scoring running back in week 17, the most important week in your fantasy championships, including 1, 2, 3, 4 the RB1 finishes. Austin Eckler basically took over for what McCaffrey was, as the Chargers were always devoid of their receiving talent, whether it be missing Keenan Allen, missing Mike Williams, having to rely on Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter and Gerald Everett to home the passing back, to home that pass catching core. Eckler was always the guy week in and week out. Had over 100 total yards in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. He was the most consistent. He was the guy that you always leaned on.
He was the offense.
He
literally was.
Yeah. That offense, and again, we always come back to the importance of hitting on your running backs, and that's why Austin Eckler is mine. But why don't you guys go ahead and wax about how important Travis Kelce was to your championship runs and just how important he was to your fantasy team this year?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go with it at first. I think that with fantasy, there's a school of thought, which is basically there's not a lot of difference between the tight end and the quarterback position most of the time. But when you get somebody that truly is a difference maker at that position, that can be what sets your roster apart on a week-to-week basis. If your tight end is consistently outscoring the other team's tight end by a lot, you automatically have an advantage. And the gap between 1 and 2 at tight end is bigger than the gap at any other position. Travis Kelce, once again, was easily the tight end 1, was incredibly consistent week in and week out. His floor was still tight end 1. I don't think he had one game where he finished outside of the top 25 or the top 10 tight ends, right? Maybe not even outside of the top 8, but I'm not going to go that far because I can't prove it. 1,300 receiving yards, double-digit touchdowns again. You're basically running a wide receiver 1 out there at the tight end position. You're getting an extra wide receiver 1 in your lineup by having Travis Kelce in your lineup. And not only that, the last several years, we'd consistently seen 2 or 3 tight ends that were performing at that level. This year, he was the only one. So to me, that's MVP worthy.
Just like you said, Hopper, and then like that being that difference maker. In some leagues, he scored as much as 100 points over tight end 2, and tight end 2 is T.J. Hockenson. So everyone who drafted Mark Andrews and George Kittle, you got some good games from Mark Andrews, and then George Kittle came in hot later on in the season. But Travis Kelce was that week-to-week winner for you, and he carried a lot of teams to the championships. And once again, he did the same thing he did last year, which was he kind of stalled out as you made it towards that playoff run. Once you're in the playoffs, he was finishing more as a back end tight end one. Wasn't scoring touchdowns, but he had 152 targets, 110 receptions, 1338 receiving yards, 12 touchdowns. I mean, just like Hop said, that is a wide receiver one being played at the tight end position. The next closest tight end was Hockenson at 914 yards.
He was 8th in receiving yards, 2nd in receiving touchdowns. Second only to Devontae Adams in receiving touchdowns. Was just behind Jalen Waddle in receiving. Put that in.
6 points higher than Hockenson in the point per game. That's
a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a touchdown.
Astronomical. But the cost to get Kelce, generally was a first and second round pick. So
you're paying for him, but you're also you're paying for him, but you're paying his.
He was worth it this year. Now looking at it,
yeah. So
I mean, he was always going to be worth it. Even if Mark Andrews and that Ravens offense had stayed healthy.
Andrews.
I mean, again, Andrews was always going to be part of that, but that offense took a shit. A Kittle being the best complete tight end in football never helps his fantasy production because there are games where he's going to be kept in the block, especially when Debo and Ayuk are both healthy.
Problem with being good at everything and having other receiving options on your team.
I love that man so much.
Not that Kansas City doesn't have other receiving options. It's just Kittle's not the primary. Nobody's the primary in San Francisco.
That's It's gonna be Kelce. I still get it. I'll always give it to I would generally always give it to the RB1. It's just
makes sense.
How important the position is as a whole. But getting Kelce 6 points per game higher than anybody else, almost 100 points more than the second one.
That point differential is different than it's been in any other year we've done this. Kelsey's always been in the top 3, but that point differential was so much more this year than it's been any other year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's freaking nuts.
Best ball MVP.
Ball MVP,
yeah. All right, that's the show. FFFaceoff.com for all of whatever people are writing there right now, which I'm assuming is a lot of season wrap-up and rookie stuff.
I just came out with Dynasty stashes, so check it out.
That's convenient because I think we're going to go into Dynasty content next week, even though I don't know specifically what we're going to talk about. I'll have to message you guys that when I think of it. We're either going to look at just generic stashes or we'll do the another common stapler of our offseason where we go back through the last 3 years of rookie classes, working oldest to newest. So we might be looking at the, 2019 rookie class?
2020 is the final year.
19.
So 2020, 21, and then the rookie class this year. Yeah.
Wow, it goes fast.
We're on 2020.
Okay, so we'd probably be looking at 2020 next year for Dynasty values as we work through those 3 rookie classes. Thank you guys for tuning in. Beerfield Podcast on Twitter. It'll probably be Beerfield FF again here in a couple weeks. Yeah. Catch you later.
See you guys.
See ya.
Recording stopped.